What's up guys, Flo here. With Gekko being out for a little bit and with me being able to put in a little bit of time playing Gekko, I decided to tackle the question, is he good for ranked? Now during this video, we're going to go over his abilities, how they work, how it plays into the meta, as well as how you should be playing Gekko, and then taking all of that, wrapping it up, and bundling it into a nice conclusion of whether he'll be good at all. The question really is he going to be something like Chamber, which was played pretty much everywhere, or something like Harbor, which nobody wants to touch with a 10-foot pole? This video is recorded live on my stream. I like to do this so that I can talk to you and take your input into consideration. So if you ever want to be in one of these videos or contribute to the conversation, make sure to swing by my stream either on YouTube or Twitch. Links are in the description. But without further ado, let's answer this question. Today's video, we're going to be talking about, will Gekko be good in ranked? And if so, how is he good? And in what maps and what situation? Okay, let's start by taking a look at some of his abilities and then what use cases are good besides, you know, the blanket ones that everyone knows. So that would be Mosh's Pit. It's a molly, right? If we look at the downsides, is that there is no damage up until the point where it explodes, which means that the issue with this is that it doesn't work as well as a molly because the damage is not instantaneous. When it is good would be the times with like Killjoy ult, where you're squishing them into like a tiny corner and you have a lineup. This is really good since this is an insta kill, especially if it's centered. Next time it is good is if it's on spike. As long as you have it on top early, they can't even really get it to half, because the damage is just like it'll kill them. Rather than a molly, sometimes you can get it to half and then you get out, depending on the molly. You know, Viper's molly isn't that big damage oriented, but yeah, it's stuff like that. Plus the radius on this is huge. Like this is bigger than any other molly that you really see, which means it covers a lot more area. So that's in terms of that. There's nothing too much special about Mosh's Pit. It's just a molly that pretty good. I personally think, I'm gonna say right now, I think he's overtuned. The reason why I think Gekko is overtuned is because he can just continually pick up his util. Like, okay, like you have to think about it in terms of sights, right? Most times on most maps, the attackers, when you're taking space on the attack side, you're using util that is not gonna come back, right? You're using a knife, or sorry, not gonna come back. Sometimes they will, but like in this case, his cooldown is so short. It's 10 seconds, right? Pretend we want to rush C. All right, I want to make sure no AWPers here. All right, this cleared it. Nothing. All right, we grab this real quick. We grab the orb for free. And then we just have to wait 10 more seconds before I get it off cooldown. And we can do something like this. And then you can even do something crazy like this and plant the spike, right? So like within 20 seconds, you can do what looks like a slow play, but in reality, it's just a very safe play. And that's because he can continually grab it. And as long as where you're pushing is where you're throwing your util, like for example, I am pushing towards C, then it will always have a benefit in using it. I can use this here and it will be great. I can even, if I really wanted to, I can even just ult off the rip with Thrash to see if I catch somebody off guard. And if I catch somebody off guard, then I detain them. Maybe we get a kill. Even if I don't, I just go and pick them up again. And then I use them later in the route. Like, it's crazy how you can do that. And you will still be fine. You use all of this util, just take space, and it's completely free. Unlike a Sova Dart or, you know, KO Knife, yeah, technically that takes space, but it is 45-second cooldown. And that's super long. And and Gekko doesn't need to wait 45 seconds. He waits 10. If I were to guess what type of nerfs Riot will do to Gekko, it's probably going to make it that it's only like 2. Like you can pick them up once. Okay, so we'll go into the wingman and why the wingman is strong. We'll talk about the plant version first, but it also works for diffuse. So in a lot of cases, his hitbox is just in general smaller. You think about it, like if you it's smaller than a human body, so it's quite hard, a lot harder to hit. Next thing is that, well, once you plant, you get your thing back and you wait 10 seconds. 10 seconds is not a lot of time. And then you can use it to help defend. You use it as a regular Roomba, like you just left click, and that's the same thing. The next thing is you're not weakened when you're planting. Usually when you're planting the defense, if they're waiting outside on site and they're waiting to like retake, using if one player, normal player, has to plant, it's a signal to good defenders that, hey, they're weak now, we should hit, while one guy is basically useless and he's planting. And the defense is the same thing, as when one guy is tapping the spike and diffusing the spike, you would be one man down. So in that case, you have to think about it like this. What should what is the significance? It's that all the defense and the aggression can now be used very well without needing to go into a worse state where you have one player being useless. Now also you're gonna look at post plant is going to be super strong for defense, especially since you can usually go and just have this guy on it, and maybe if he even gets it to half, that's a lot of value. And it likewise is the same thing, but on playing post and planting for long. So for example, here you see this mound plant that I can do. Well, I can't do it right now because I don't have the spike, but there was a mound plant that I showed earlier that you can plant up here. That's really good. Now you don't even like, what you realistically need is a KJ ult, right? KJ ult knocks them all out of sight, then you get 2 smokes, and then you send your buddy in, and now it is free. The site is actually free. You don't even need to do anything. You could even, if you really wanted to, and you were like really low on funds, just smoke like the close versions of site, or even Astral Wall or something like that, and just send him in with a drone or a dizzy. And if the dizzy sees nothing, then you know your wingman's all set to plant for free. And that's what you could do with one agent. One agent, you can determine whether you want to plant, and then the rest of your team could just stay back. And that frees up a lot, because if you have to send players into site to plant, it's very risky to send one player into site to plant, just because if he dies, that's a free pick you gave the other team. But with the wingman, yes, he could drop the bomb, but you just execute right after. Like if he breaks it, then everyone rushes in together. But now if you only need like 2 or 3 people here, the rest of the people can be lurking, working the rest of the map, and then it sets up for better positionings rather than needing like majority of your players toward one site. You have like your wingman that could do a lot of the work. Flash in a way is sort of like a Fade Prowler. I wouldn't compare the Flash to a Fade Prowler. I would compare it to a Reyna Flash, because you can shoot it, and also the thing about it is, while it can miss, it's very rare though, as long as you're throwing it properly, it doesn't miss. What you can, it's like if you are in line of sight of it, you can be blind. The better part than Reyna Flash is that if it hits you, you're going to be blind for that full duration, rather than a Reyna Flash, which when it comes out, if you break it, the moment you break it or lose line of sight of it, you can see again. But with Dizzy, you don't have that. If you're hit, you're hit. You have to get out. Also, it kind of tells you how many people are there, which is an interesting concept, because when you throw Dizzy, you can hear him shoot like the late paint, and then with every shot, you know that there's one player there. Versus with Reyna Flash, it just blinds everyone in the area. So it is also kind of an info tool, and you can continually pick it up. All right, so now you're gonna see that like all his utility is really good at taking space. So you're like, I don't feel like, sometimes with a Raze or like anyone that has like a drone, you don't want to use your utility because there might be a better place that you would want to use it later on. Like if I don't want to use it in the beginning here because I want to use it, let's say, over here to get onto site, right? And I just want to throw my wingman out on site to clear some of the angles, but so I don't want to use it early, right? That would be normally what you would think of Sova Drone or Raze Roomba. But in this case with Gekko, you don't mind, because as long as you take the space and you win this area with the use of your wingman, let's say for example, then you don't mind, because we've taken this space. Now I can just pick it up again. And then in 10 seconds, you can use it again. Maybe I'll go through door. Maybe this time I'll go through like this area and do what I said before. Like that's what you can do. You can do with the Flash. Flash and Wingman are both, and your Thrash. 3 abilities you can consistently just use to take space and pick it up again. It's crazy. I really think that there's going to be a nerf to this. I don't see how Gekko won't be consistently played. And the thing is, like, your aggression doesn't slow down that much. Like 10 seconds is not that bad, considering that like if you do this, right, and you throw like your wingman, right, and you take all this space with your team, what happens? What do the defenders do? They'll usually smoke this out anyway, right? And then with the smoke up, it'll be easier to grab your util, easy peasy, la-di-da. And then you just continually work the map, you wait for the smoke to go out, and then you go back in again. Like it's not that big of a deal to wait the 10 seconds. I really think they need to nerf it to like 30 seconds. I get it that his thing is that he only has 3 abilities, but right now on average he will probably have around 5 or 6 abilities every round, not including ultimate, which is kind of crazy. And if on rounds where he has ultimate, he probably averages around 7 to 8 abilities used in one round, which is insane. That is twice the amount of most agents kits, if you think about it. So on the defense, he's okay. He's definitely not quite as good. And the way you play Gekko on defense isn't necessarily like sit back on site. You're really going to want to work with your team to take space. This is just because in general, like his flash isn't a good enough stall. And because when you're rushing, like if 5 people are coming through here and I try to throw it like a pop flash, chances are it's just gonna get shot, and it gives away my own position on site, which like is half of the thing. And wingman isn't super good. It's pretty easy to get broken. There's not like a ton of things you want to do. This is like the Mosh's pit, the molly doesn't stall for very long, and it's not instantaneous, so it doesn't really deter them. If they're already like running past the molly, then they're just going to continue running past it, and it won't do anything. Thrash is good, but obviously it requires you to be in a safe location to be able to activate it, so there's that issue as well. So like on the defense, he's not good if he just has to do it on his own. He would really want to be taking space and then like forcing like bad fights from the opponent. So on Lotus, for example, I think you'll be seeing a lot of Dizzy being played on Lotus because of the attacking side, but also on the defending side, like literally you get your breach to stun, you toss your little Dizzy this way, and then this way it'll like blind anyone that comes out, as well as you just get a smoke deep and then you can grab it, right? You can throw a better Dizzy that probably lands toward this side, and also covers across same way, but ideally this really strong. As for that, the defense is generally going to be around playing around space, because his flash isn't as good. Like you won't play it like a KO where you're just sitting behind a wall with a right click ready to pop flash and swing, because his flash isn't that good. So you're realistically just working to take better gunfights using your Dizzy. Hopefully like they're running up and they have to break the Dizzy and you swing off of that, but like in general that's kind of what you want to do. It's more about how you position and how you take your fights. Is Gekko Eminem from Wish? It does kind of look like it, I'm not gonna lie. The only tip you need to know on defense is how to throw Dizzy upwards. So a big part is viability to determine how much value you can get for Dizzy while being easily recovered. Yes, that is a good point. A very good point, actually, in terms of Dizzy. So what you can do, I believe, is there's this one. This is the one where you just kind of like, you just look up. Let's see if that gets spotted. Yeah, that sees all of C, and then it drops back here. Perfect, and then you can pick it up again. So a lot of Dizzy's value is going to be how you can throw it straight up and throw it into locations that, or just in general, all of this, throw into locations that are easily picked up again after, while still doing their job while they're up. So it would be almost like beneficial for having like like you wouldn't want to throw a Dizzy that lands here, right? You would want to throw a Dizzy that lands past it. So you throw it like this, and then this way it'll scan as it goes across, but also land in a position that's easily retrievable. Like this is probably fine, even though it looks like a little bit weird, and usually when you throw flashes at them, right? But in this case you throw it so it like goes from one point to another while in between scanning an area.
You did good.
Okay, so specific maps that specific maps that Gekko is going to be really good at are maps like Lotus. We're gonna look at number one is if it's a harbor map. So harbor maps are gonna be really good for Gekko because Wingman works super well with Harbor Cove, as well as the wall that blocks line of sight. So you just throw up a wall, you throw up a cove, you have Gekko throw their Wingman on plan. So normally it would be cove up here, then you do your normal wall that walls off waterfall and spawn, then you plant, and then you're all set, right? Same thing with B. You can kind of do the same thing here, where you just throw the wall that covers back link, and right here waterfall and link, and then you can cover this, and then you just have it run in and plant like right here. It's really safe, and you don't really have to do much work. Cove is obviously really good as well. Sometimes even without a cove you can get away because you have cascades. There's so much line of sight done out with harbor that it works really well in conjunction. So now that you see that harbor's being played a lot more, especially with Gekko existing, and there's a bigger reason to play harbor, because harbor's abilities alone were hard to justify why you would want to run a harbor. Now with Gekko existing, it makes sense that you want to run both because they both benefit off of each other very well. And then toward on the attack side, this is also another place where Gekko is going to really excel, because a lot of defenders like to hold tree from like here, and what you can do is, because of the way it works, it's like super close, you have a teammate open it and then you pop Thrash, and then when the door opens the Thrash goes through and then detains anyone, and then you push in after the door. Thrash clears all of this. It's really good. And then you'll pick it up after you clear tree. It's just super easy, and then you can use it a second time. Crazy you can do that. You can ult twice in one round. But Dizzy is not so long to blind. It's fine. A lot of it gets info, and usually you're like swinging off of it anyway, or it sets you up. It basically means that they can't take space in that second. And a lot of these, like the second matters. For example, the second right here, like if this blinds them for even a second, then you realize that it gets them into this spot. Like defenders are pushed up into this spot and the attackers are still stuck here. And that's a really good pivot point because you have one player here and then you have like one player right here, and then you guys both just hold this area, which is probably going to be smoked out. And then if they push through, they have to fight 2 players at once. It's a death trap for them. So that's why just a second sometimes is good enough. I know it seems like it's not that good in terms of flash because of the duration, but it is good enough. It is good enough. And like not to mention, most other flashes don't tell you a specific information like Dizzy, and also can't be retrieved. Maybe you compare it to Sky Flash, but Sky also has its limitations. Anyway, so let's kind of keep going on to what other maps might be good for Gekko. And I'm just gonna go down the map list. So we have the next map that I think will be really good would be Pearl. Remember, post plant maps are strong for Gekko. B is a sick post plant map, and A is a sick post plant map on the attack side. Plus you have Harbor that works on Pearl as well quite well. If you've seen lock-in or a lot of pro play, you'll see Harbor being run on this map. So therefore, Gekko is also going to be quite solid. On the defense, it'll be fine. You'll probably be taking space toward A, tossing your flash toward A to take control of that orb, combo with the flash or something, smoke or something like that, and you can take more space together. Working retake, thrash also is really good for clearing that back haul. Even on attack side, it's really good to entry with. There's a lot of good reasons. And then if you just like thrash through back haul on the attack side when you're hitting B, it usually gets like downed or like into the globule orb formation where you can pick it up toward back haul, which is quite safe to pick it up. So it's actually really solid. Now, okay, so those two are the ones being set. Bind doesn't exist anymore. Breeze doesn't exist. Fracture. Does Fracture do I think Thrash would be good on Fracture? I don't think he'd be bad. The reason why I don't like Fracture as much is specifically because Harbor isn't played there, although Harbor has seen a little bit of play. But I still think Brimstone is the preliminary smoker. Now with Brimstone being the preliminary smoker, the question is, do you still want to run a Gekko when half of Wingman's abilities aren't as good? No, not really. And what are you taking over? What are you replacing? For a Gekko, you'd probably be replacing something like a Breach for Breach Stun, which is super strong and normally you don't want to do it. Or you'd be replacing something like a Fade. Fade, I guess, would be another option. But Fade gets a little more value. It's like okay, but I think Gekko is all-rounder, so it makes it like never seem bad on any specific map. But you also see that you would rather run something that's specialized on it. So Fracture, I'm giving it like an okay. Haven's not bad. Let me think. Haven toward A, you can get that pretty easily. You can also shut out a lot. There's also some post plant you can do towards C, which is also pretty solid. I can see Haven being a solid one. You would normally run like double duelist, at least in rank. That's pretty meta. And then you'll get like a Sova. If you're lucky, you could get 2 initiators. Maybe the second initiator would be Gekko. But the first initiator would probably always be a Fade or a Sova on Haven. Icebox, I feel like it's a little bit harder to get value out of Gekko, although I could see it working just specifically because Sage is run on Icebox super often, and if Sage is run often, then guess what happens? You wall, you throw the Gekko on, and then everyone just swings the wall, protects the Gekko, and it's all set. And also, I don't know if you guys do, but even if Gekko dies while Wingman, while Gekko dies while the Wingman is diffusing, I believe the Wingman still continues as long as they don't lose the round because of it. So with that being said, even Gekko can swing. So you have 5 people swinging while Wingman is behind the Sage wall diffusing. And then it'd be a pretty insane defense, especially since a lot of the maps just work well with just Sage saving her wall. On the attack side, it's like not bad either because you have a lot of awkward moments where it's like, oh, Viper Pit on B, and you don't want to walk into Viper's Pit to plan. You send your Wingman to go do it, or you just send your Wingman to go clear the Viper's Pit, which is actually pretty strong as well. Harbor works on Icebox as well, so I think maybe then maybe Icebox is actually a really solid map. If you run Harbor Sage, I can definitely see you wanting to run a Gekko, and then you probably run a Sova, and then you'll probably run after that, you'll probably run something like a duelist, like a Jet or something like that. That's probably really common. Split. Let's see, is Split good? I think Split is one of the weaker maps for a Gekko. I find it very hard to find value out of his flash because everything is so close already. So it's like you could have just cleared it. You can throw the flash, it won't be bad, but like post plant, Maybe this is the Harbor meta where if you just want to run Gekko, you just run Harbor. Because Harbor can cover for dome smokes like pretty well since he's so flexible, but it's just that you would, if you're only playing a Harbor, then it doesn't seem very valuable, but if you're playing a Harbor with a Gekko, then it makes sense. But split, yeah, it doesn't seem like super good. I don't think I think I would prefer Roomba over the Wingman. I feel like the Roomba's harder to hit, but I don't know if that's true. I think that they're technically, based statistically wise, they're pretty much the same. Minus the concuss and the explosion radius, but I think Raze is better just because you get the Raze nade, and the nade and the ult are, I would say, stronger than Thrash's ult and Thrash, well, specifically Dizzy. I think nade is better than Dizzy. Thrash is really good on split, I would actually say. That makes sense because everything's so close. You just like detain someone, you go all the way through B heaven, you detain anyone that's there. That's pretty insane if you think about it. And it travels really fast, hard to break, all that stuff. And you can combo Dizzy, then ults, and then all that jazz. I think split could be good, but I think you would have to be hard pressed to have a Sova. I mean, not Sova, a Harbor. Sage is okay, but Sage is like not using her wall very optimally on split. So do we go over all the maps? Yeah. Ascent, it's okay. There's a bunch of like vertical throw lineups where you could throw Dizzy through the window on B, like on the defense for early info, and on A you could like hop top Jenny, throw straight up, it would spot A main. That's pretty solid. They might nerf the vision radius on Dizzy as well, because that's kind of insane. He can see super far, and then you just pick it up for safe, for free on site. And if they're rushing, you just molly the entrance. There's like pretty solid defense there. It's okay. Like I would want to. I don't know if it would replace KO, and it's definitely not replacing like a Sova or a Fade. Especially since Sova's cemented in, just because we have so much Killjoy now, and Killjoy is how do you break her stuff? You use shock darts and stuff like that, and ciphers, you know, because Chamber is gone now. Before with Chamber still here, it wasn't worth running. You'd rather just run a better like Sentinel, or you run Chamber yourself. But now you can break her stuff, and the only way to break KJ ult, guess what is how? Use Sova ult. So on KJ maps, you would hard press to ever replace Sova, and Gekko would probably fight for the second initiator slot. All right, so in summation, what I think and Flo's opinion is that he will be insane in ranked. He's just super utilitarian, and if you one-tricked and you want to be a one-trick Gekko main, and I know some of you guys are thinking about it, he'll work. It's just he has so much utility. Maybe if nerfs come in and it changes his kit significantly, then I'll see, okay, maybe don't play him. But in general, Gekko works really well and is very flexible. The information is always important. I think this will be a predominant agent in the upcoming Valorant meta, and specifically in ranked will be really strong just because you can do so much with him.